Hey everyone, it's Chelsea from Little Mountain Ranch, and today I thought I would give you a bit of a pantry tour update. Back in October, I did a pantry tour where I showed you everything that I had stored in my pantries. I have a pantry in here, and then right beside me over here, I have a second pantry. This pantry is primarily where I store my canned goods. So my plan for today is I'm going to give my pantry a deep clean. We're about halfway through the season right now, the winter months, and my pantry has seen a lot of use over the last couple of months, and that's evident by the mess that's accumulated in there, in actually both of these pantries. Like most moms, I send my kids down to grab stuff from the pantry, or I ask them to go put stuff away, and they don't necessarily put stuff back exactly where it goes all the time. So things have gotten a little out of control. Also, because I store potatoes in this pantry and I don't wash my potatoes before I put them into storage, that's the recommended way of storing potatoes. There's actually a lot of dirt all over the floor in here. So I'm going to go through and just see what I have, get rid of anything that's turning, check all my jars for seals. It's a really good thing to do kind of halfway through the season, is just go through, check all your seals, make sure that everything is still sealed. And then what I'm planning on doing is reorganizing everything so that I can get a really good visual for what I have left for the rest of the year. So the way that I can, my sort of planning that goes into my canning, I try to have enough food to last from about the beginning of October through until the end of May. By the end of May, if I'm out of everything as far as my canned goods, I'm not stressing about it. Tomorrow I'm actually going to be going out to the root cellar and doing a video down there, just giving you an update on how everything's doing in the root cellar as well. So you can keep your eye out for that one. So right now I'm just going to give you a little bit of an overview of how things are looking, and then I'm going to get to work and clean this up. So this is the situation on the floor of my pantry. I'm not entirely sure. I think that's a grocery bag there. That is just a bunch of stuff. This stuff's actually not supposed to be in there. Slow cooker, old canner, potatoes, apple cider vinegar for some reason randomly on the floor, a piece of paper, and a whole bunch of dirt. You can see these are the boxes I store my potatoes in, and the dirt just kind of comes out of the bottom. So I have to clean that mess up. On the shelves, you can see that just odds and ends have been put on here everywhere. This is actually the bottom of the diffuser, jars, miscellaneous jars, mess, and more mess. And it looks like there is a lot of stuff in here, but this is actually kind of deceiving because, I don't know if you can see that, but there's actually a lot of empty space in here. So I'm going to do a shuffle around here, reorganize this, and then we'll get a better visual of what's actually on here. Yeah, you can see like there's big gaps in here. So I'll fill all these up, and hopefully I'll end up with a couple of empty shelves. Back here, it's just mess and more mess. I just dumped an entire box of potatoes all over the floor. Okay. So my potatoes are actually still doing really well. I have my box of red potatoes. I'm gonna have to look and see specifically what kind of potato this was, but my red potatoes are starting to shoot like that and get a little bit soft. So I'm gonna have to use these ones up right away. But all my russet potatoes, which are my favorite storage potato, are still doing awesome. One of the other things that's really good about doing a really thorough go through of your food storage is that way you can pull out anything that's soft, anything that looks like this, it's all gross and shriveled, and then move things around so that you have the things that are starting to turn at the front part of your shelves, so that way you can use that stuff first and you don't have as much loss. Jack, would you be able to go and grab me a garbage bag, please? Thank you. Okay, I'm making some progress. The good news is I still have about 250 pounds left of potatoes, I think. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, something around there. So there's still lots of potatoes, and only the red potatoes were starting to go soft. So that's great. One of the questions that I've received is about storing potatoes. Some people feeling that they needed a lot of humidity. In my personal experience, and again, this is only my experience, my potatoes do much better and store longer up here in the cold room in my house than they do down in my root cellar where the humidity is really high. I've tried both. They go soft way faster down there. So my personal feeling is that they seem to do best with less moisture rather than some of the other root vegetables like carrots and beets and turnips and rutabagas and that kind of thing. So again, just my personal experience. Really happy with how my potatoes are doing in here, and as well as my squash. One of the things that kind of surprised me are that my sugar pumpkins, which I thought were going to last a lot longer than they did, are starting to go quite soft. So I'm going to need to use these up right away too, and I have a feeling that there's quite a few in here that are going to end up going to the pigs, which isn't a total loss, but this is one of those things. I've never grown sugar pumpkins before. This is the first time, and I was just sort of testing to see how long they were going to last. So it's about, let's see, I brought them in September, October, November. December is kind of the longest that I would leave. So say about 4 months for these sugar pumpkins. Now they are definitely not very good. So that's too bad. So I'm gonna go through all of these squash and then just take out everything that's soft. Buttercup squash are starting to turn color a little bit, but are still nice and solid. So that's a good one. The best one so far, by far, and this has just always been a favorite of mine, are the spaghetti squash. They're still rock solid. And I've mentioned this before, but I have had spaghetti squash last for up to a year in storage, and all the seeds start developing on the inside, but they're still edible after that. So that's kind of my go-to for long-term storage. This is the first year I've ever done buttercup, and I'm really happy with these ones, so I'll be doing these ones again for sure. And then butternut squash are another one that I haven't grown before. They didn't do super well here, but I'm gonna be making some major changes around the way that I'm growing my squash in this year's upcoming garden, so I think I'll have better luck, and I will be trying these ones again. Really good for storage. So all the sugar pumpkins, Kate, are all done. So it's just a good thing to know for next year that they actually are not a long-term storage vegetable. Oh, I've got one. Can you grab these jars for me, honey? I don't know why people keep putting jars in here. Hubbard squash, another excellent storage squash. Still hard as a rock. So sadly, out of the 10 sugar pumpkins that I had in my storage, only one left. That is good. So I'm gonna have to use this one right away. Lesson learned, it's part of the way gardening works. Last year, 2018, was a year of experimenting for me and trying a bunch of new things. And there were successes and there were failures, and that just seems to be the way that it is with gardening. Buttercup squash, my new absolute favorite squash as far as eating. Really delicious squash. And we're now just about 5 full months into storage and they're still perfect. So this is all that remains of my herbs that I dried this summer. So there is really not a lot there, not a lot at all. One of the things I'm definitely going to be doing again next year, in fact, there's a few things that I canned that I just wanted to test this year to see how they went before I went crazy, and one of them is flavored vinegar. So this is a blueberry vinegar. This one's a blueberry white vinegar. I did a balsamic, and I think I did a red wine vinegar too, and they're fantastic. I just actually used this and a little bit of olive oil and a bit of herbs on my salad, and it's to die for. So I will make sure that I do a video on this. I don't think I did last year in the upcoming season. I have received a ton of questions about dried rose hips, and I'm sorry I haven't actually done a video on this yet. Maybe that's something I will be able to do in the next couple of weeks for you. But one of just the quick ways to use dried rose hips, and this is one of the main reasons why we dehydrate them, is in making a tea. So you just take a couple of tablespoons of rose hips, put them in a mug of tea with boiling water, and then leave it to steep for 10 minutes. Add a little bit of honey with super packed with vitamin C. But I'll be honest, the main reason that we do it is because my kids love tea, and tea is really expensive, and they love the sweetness and the fruitiness of the rose hip tea, and it's also good for them. That's the main reason why we harvest so many of them, is just to make simple tea. But you can make all kinds of things with rose hips, and I'll do a video on that coming up here soon. All right, now comes the moment of truth where I start rearranging all of my canned goods and then get a really good visual of what it is that I have left. I'm a little bit nervous about this, to be honest. From October 1st till October 31st, we did a challenge where we ate only out of our pantry. We didn't go to the grocery store at all. It definitely made a little bit more of a dent in our food storage than would have happened on a normal year, but I'm glad we did it because it really gave me a really good idea of what we would need if we really had to eat only out of our pantry. have to admit, I'm pleasantly surprised with how much is left here. We have a few things we've put a huge dent in, mostly the canned fruit, but that always tends to be the way. My kids love canned fruit and we end up chewing. Aurora's saying yes, she's behind the camera. We always tend to chew through that, and jam. I definitely did not make enough jam this year. Oh, we still have quite a few.
That's
still have
syrup. That's plum syrup.
No, this is plum jam. One of the things that I mentioned in that pantry tour video was the fact that I had never canned meat before and that I really wanted to get a pressure canner. I got a pressure canner. Really exciting. So this, you see this beauty here? This is a 7-quart, it fits 7 quarts, all American canner. So I had a fantasy about having an all American canner, but for any of you guys that have looked into the price of them, they're super, super expensive. So when I was away on my trip, Dan texted me and he said, was it an all-American canner you wanted? And I said yes, and he said, well, I happened to find one an hour away for $60. So we managed to get this canner, which is in perfect condition, for $60, which was much cheaper than to buy this size. I think it was $300, this is all Canadian, to buy this new. My plan is in the next couple weeks, I have some meat in the freezer that I really want to try canning. So that'll be a video that you can look forward to happening in the next couple weeks. It's not going to be a how-to video. It's going to be a watch while I learn how to use this, because I've never pressure canned meat before, but I'm really excited about it. Would you mind taking that and putting it in there, honey? Thank you. Good news is that I have not found a single jar that has not sealed. There has been a few jars over the last couple of months that we've brought up that haven't had a seal on them, or the seal has failed, but so far so good today. One of the other things that I made this last year that's definitely going to be something I'm going to make a ton of is fir tip syrup. This is delicious. I actually prefer it over maple syrup, especially on yogurt with berries. It's really, really good. Super easy and cheap to make. This will be another video that I'll have come out in the spring when the fir tips just start to grow. They're really delicious. Even by themselves, you can eat them. Just make sure that they're really, really soft, and it's a super strong flavor, so prepare yourself, but they taste really citrusy, really delicious. One of the things I don't think that I had in my pantry when I did my last pantry video was all of the honey. We have about 23 gallons or so, not now because we've used quite a few already. We use honey pretty much exclusively in everything in place of sugar, so we go through quite a bit of it. One of the ways, thank you, sweetie.
You're welcome.
One of the ways that we keep the mouse problem down in the pantry, and we actually haven't had any issues with mice at all this year, and that is with the use of peppermint. And I also throw a little bit of eucalyptus in there as well, oils, into a spray bottle, and then I basically spray the whole pantry down with some peppermint. Mice do not like peppermint at all, and it really seems to work. We started doing it last year and we haven't had any issues. I also keep a couple of mouse traps like these, just little cheap mouse traps, just in case. One of the other things that I do is use some cotton, and I soak this down with peppermint and stick it anywhere where there's cracks or gaps anywhere where mice could come. And the other thing that we use is steel wool, just regular steel wool. The mice don't like chewing through that, and you can shove that in your cracks as well. So I'm just gonna give everything a really good spray with this and give it a final sweep, and then I will call it done. And this has the added bonus of having your pantry just smell nice. I don't know how many of you are like this, but when I do a clean like this, I end up usually outside of the room with this massive pile of stuff that I have to deal with. I don't take stuff and go and put it away, as I probably should. Check this out. This is the mess that is now outside of my pantry. But it's worth it because now my pantry looks like this. You still have a couple of days left to enter my giveaway if you want to go and check that out. I'll put that video up here for you and you can go and take a look at that. So Thursday the 24th at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time is when I'm going to be closing the entries for that draw. So if you want to go and enter that, you just have to go leave a comment on that video, and I'll link that down in the description box, and I'll put that somewhere here if you want to go and check that out and enter for the giveaway. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you again in a couple days. Bye!